Hi guys, it's finally here. I am CT Tech Gaming. This is my review of Mafia, the Definitive Edition. This is a game which is a remake of the original Mafia in 2002, which was a critically acclaimed game for its storyline, visuals and its essentially immersion at that time. So what I'm going to do is basically go through a few of the things, the specs, the gameplay, the dreaded race, and everything else to go with it as well, to try and help you guys to have a little bit more of an understanding and decide whether this is the game for you. So let's start by going into the specs. Okay, so the specs are Windows 10, which is pretty much the norm now anyway. It is a DirectX version 11 title, so there's no DirectX 12 compatibility here. The processor is an i5 2550K or an AMD FX 8120. You need 6GB of RAM memory, and it is a GTX 660 or a Radeon HD 7870, and you also need 50GB of hard drive space. You can also see the recommended specs there as well. I am currently running a 5820K, which is overclocked to 4.5 GHz, and I've got a 5700 XT as the GPU. Now I've got 32GB of RAM as well, and my FPS is hovering around the 92 frames. It kind of fluctuates between 85 and 110, but 92 is roughly the number I see the most. I did get a dip of around 65 frames when I went into a really densely populated area and I had it at full mayhem, so I was blowing things up with Molotovs, I was shooting people, so it was literally making it as busy as possible. But other than that, in standard gameplay, I never really dropped below 85, and like I say, it was hovering, it was kind of like stabilising around 92. Right, what I'm going to do now is just quickly go into the options, try and give you a bit of an idea on the kind of graphical options and everything like that it can give you. This game does have a launcher when it starts, which I'm going to put on the screen now. In the launcher, what you can do is go into the options and change your resolution, your full screen, your VSync, what display you want it on in case you've got multiple displays, and also the quality preset. If you change it to custom, you can start to change them individually as well, but it does have your low, medium, high and optimal. You can also disable the launcher, which is also a good tool for if you just want to get a quick startup. The idea of this is you can then change any settings pre going into the game, because as you'll see as I press start, the in-game menus do use the graphic engine, so if you did have any graphical issues it would affect you at the menu as well, so the launcher kind of gives you that bit of flexibility. Now going into the controls on the options, you can change all the things like your looking version, your aim assists, vibration, controller sensitivity, mouse sensitivity, and you can also bind all the keys, which is a really useful tool. The only thing I will say is, although it changes it by abilities, driving and all that kind of things, if you change one in the driving which is linked to something in the walking, it changes both. It's the only little downside, but other than that, you can bind any key you want. In the game you can change the difficulty. Classic is basically the hardest and is your hardcore mode and is the closest to the original game. Now I'd highly suggest playing it in that mode. You can use easy, medium, hard or classic, and it changes all the relevant kind of difficulties. Like police response, if you have it on simulation, they'll even pull you over for speeding. If you do it for just high, they'll only go for like traffic offences in regards to like hitting something, and anything more than that. And if you have it on low, it's only if you start killing people and things like that. You can also change your camera modes, although there's not really many camera modes on this particular title. Tutorials, skip drives, and again your disable launcher. In the display menu, it's pretty much the same as what you saw in the launcher, plus a couple of extra options like your field of view, which I turned up because why wouldn't you? In regards to the options you get, it's got quite a decent amount for you to be able to specify to your liking and to your system. But it's not as in-depth as some, and then your audio options are pretty standard. If we go into the game now, you can see graphically it looks absolutely beautiful. It's using the Mafia 3 engine with a few tweaks which really do help make it kind of bring it up into the current generation. This particular bit of stuff I'm showing you is the first mission you get caught with, so I'm trying not to give too much away because the story is so good that it's something I don't want to give you any real spoilers. Now the game itself, this does have a few pros and cons, but in regards to its general gameplay, the gameplay itself is really, really good looking. It's fantastic. The people, the scenery, going into the buildings, the animations on the faces, everything. It is really, really top notch and really well done. A few of the little issues or cons I do have is the original game. For instance, on this mission, people that have played the original will know what I'm talking about. Is that you had to do all of the stuff yourself. So if you were being chased, you had to physically lose them. You had no help or nothing. Whereas on here, you have these almost choke points, which is similar to what I'd class as kind of Need for Speed hop suit style, to help get rid of the cops or people that are following you. Now, I don't have an issue with them putting it in, because it adds a little bit of more fun, but it would have been nice if you had to do it physically yourself. As you saw in the early one, and you'll see in a bit, they actually turns into a little cutscene and then it does it for you. It's only a small con, it doesn't really take away from the game, but it is something I noticed and I thought it would have been nice if I could have done it myself, because then you get a little bit more satisfaction. Now you can see obviously you can hit relative things as well. Lampposts and stuff like that do get knocked down, but there are certain items which are static, and there is damage modelling on the car. As you can see the bullet holes hitting the back of the car. So they have really kind of gone all out in regards to making the modelling look really good. And the car does handle brilliantly. You put it on simulation and it does make it difficult to handle. This is another one of those points I was telling you about. I just feel it'd be nice if I had to swerve through there myself and catch them out. But the actual game itself, like I say, the simulation of the driving's great, the walking around, even the aiming with the gun is really, really well done. It's a little bit, what I'd class as, it has a bit of recoil, so they've made it so it's very similar to the original, but they've just kind of brought it up a little bit more to modern day. It has a wheel in regards to changing weapons, but it's not as intuitive as it could have been. So changing weapon, where you'd normally just cycle your wheel to go for all the different ones, you will only have 2 that you select actively, and if you want to choose any of the others, you have to press the mouse wheel in, and it comes up with like a little gun wheel that you can then choose what you want to have equipped, and then you cycle between those 2. So it's a little bit clunky, that system. But it does, again, it doesn't take long to get used to, and 9 times out of 10 you'll have 2 guns that you want to use anyway, because you'll have something like a Tommy gun or a shotgun and then your pistol. So other than that, I mean, the actual rest of it, like I say, plays really well. The story is fantastic. They've managed to capture the story brilliantly, and it's very much like it was in the original game, with a few tweaks, and they've kind of extended a few of the story arcs, like the love story in it, which is nice to see. But it is something which they've done a lot of work on to try and keep the essence of the game, and I think they've captured it perfectly. And the map itself is completely open world, so you can travel anywhere you want to. And in the old game, you used to have a lot of loading screens between different areas, say like the countryside to the main city and things like that. In this one, with modern day technology, they don't need to do that anymore, so they've completely opened up the map with no loading screens, and it makes an absolute pleasure to drive through. And my god, is this world a fantastic world to drive through. Well, let's get going on to the next stage, which is the dreaded race. Now, anybody that has played the original, or possibly even heard of the original, will know about this race. It's possibly the hardest part of the game, and it used to stifle a lot of people. Some people took days to physically get past. And in this remake, they've managed to capture that difficulty pretty well. It is still a very difficult game, but it's for a different reason. In a minute, you'll see me suddenly slam into the wall. All I did was tap to turn to take that corner, but for some reason, the control made it so it slammed into the wall, and I couldn't, no matter how much I tried to turn the other way, I just had no control of the car at that point. Now, I've put us side by side here so you can see the old game and the new game of the same race. Now, they've managed to make the course very similar, which is quite nice because it means it still captures the essence. But you'll notice on this one, the cars basically just drove the same speed, which is what made it difficult. They were very similar in speed, and you had to drive the race perfectly. In the new one, the rubber banding is so extreme that I guarantee you, 9 times out of 10 on the finishing straight, you will get caught up and they'll try to do an overtake manoeuvre. And the ones in front of you will just pull away with relative ease. So you've got to, it's a different type of difficulty, whereas the last one you just had to perfect the lap, and then if you got in front you could get away from them if you did perfect lap after perfect lap. On this one you'll never get a massive lead, but if you take the laps perfectly and possibly cut a few corners in the right areas, you can start to get ahead of them without and basically beat them. There are a couple little scripted elements here, like you saw a minute ago, and you'll see in the next lap, where occasionally the car in front of you will make a mistake and crash. Doesn't happen all the time, but I think out of most of the times I tried it, which was about 5-6 times in total to physically beat it on classic mode, then it did happen probably 9 out of the 10 times. Now, if you do turn the difficulty down, it does make the race a lot easier, but part of the challenge is getting it on classic mode, and you do get an achievement if that's what you like, and it is definitely good fun doing it, but also frustrating in the same way. Now, comparing this to the old game, obviously graphically this is leagues apart, because the draw distances, the general graphics and everything else has just come a long way since 2002. So the Mafia engine for Mafia 3 has really done it justice to make it look a beautiful game. The story is captured the story brilliantly. In fact, I urge anybody to give it a go just for the story alone. It does have a free play mode, which is the same as in the original. The original had also like an extreme free play, which this one only has one mode, but it kind of incorporates both the original free play and the extreme free play into one mode, so it's all within the same mode, which, to be honest, if you ask me, that is a plus as well. Also, they've extended on some of the story arcs, which are great as well, but they've managed to capture the essence of the original game, and that was something I was really worried about. I was worried that they wouldn't have captured the game in the same kind of essence, and they might have ended up ruining it slightly. But Hangar 13 have done a great job at keeping this as close to the original as possible with a few little tweaks. Like I say, there are a few negatives, but for me personally, those negatives did not take away from the positives, and it makes it so this game is still well worth buying and giving a go. Which then brings me to the next bit, price. Now, the game itself, it's on Steam, PS4 and Xbox. In the UK it is £34.99, or in the US it is $39.99. So as far as game price, it's actually not that bad when you consider a lot of AAA games now go pushing the 50 quid mark, especially on console. They are also bringing out a full trilogy, which will have this version of Mafia 1, it will have the remastered version of Mafia 2 and 3, and that comes in at about £49.99. So if you haven't got any of the series, or if you used to have Mafia 2 and you want to play the remastered version, then the full trilogy would be the way to go, because the price difference, you probably wouldn't be able to buy the first and second one separately for cheaper, or not at the moment anyway. But getting back just to the Mafia remake, if it's something that you've played the original and you've been thinking, do you want to try this one or not, or even if you haven't played the original but you do like the kind of gangster era or the Prohibition era, or even looking for a bit of a cinematic story driven type game, then I highly recommend trying this game, because I really do think anybody that's into that kind of thing will really enjoy this game. But anyway, that's going to be me for this particular review. If you've bought the game, if you've played the original, or even if it's something that you've been thinking about, tell me your thoughts in the comments. And if you have enjoyed the video, please hit that like button. Feel free to subscribe and get the bell on, because I am going to have more uploads, which are including other reviews, playthroughs and other tech gaming news. So I've been CT Tech Gaming, this has been my Mafia review, and I'll see you in the next one.